Hello, everyone. I'm here with Dr. Mouhab Rizkallah, and an orthodontist in Massachusetts, a practicing orthodontist in Massachusetts. Before I even start anything, I want to play a video for you guys to understand why we're having this discussion and what happened, and give you a little bit of a background. It's a 30-second video, so bear with me while I share my screen. There we go.
Question 2 simply expands a consumer protection law that already exists for medical insurance to dental insurance companies. Medical insurance companies are required to spend at least 88% on patient care. Dental insurance has no requirement. As a result, Delta Dental, a so-called not-for-profit company, contributed $291 million to their parent company while only spending $177 million for patient care that same year.
Wait, what?
Yup. So vote yes on question 2, so your dental insurance is actually spent on you.
I'd like to replay this one more time if you missed it. I guess I couldn't replay it. I wanted to replay it a little bit, but maybe we can replay it again at the end.
They could always rewind it, you know. They
Yes.
could rewind this video.
Exactly. So let me start by saying, first of all, thank you for the sacrifice that you've made, money and time. And I wanted to tell people that you have picked up the fight for us against the insurance companies. And I think it's a really important topic. And I established my group based on the fact that I want to be supportive to dentists everywhere as far as the independent dentist goes. So why don't you please introduce yourself and tell us a little about yourself and how did this come about?
Sure. Thank you for the platform and the opportunity to discuss this. I'm excited to discuss this, honestly, Bob. Not for the point of bringing myself to the surface, because I really am just as happy to be a hermit. But I do have purpose in my life, and I have actually a number of them. And one of them that I've developed in my career is to serve my colleagues. This didn't start recently. I was president of my class in dental school at State University of New York at Stony Brook for my second, third, and fourth years of dental school. And that was always a servant doing that. And I've been doing that for now 2 decades. I'm almost 50 years old. And that's really where my heart is to serve my colleagues so that they can serve their patients, right? So I will say also that video that you played was a video that was, we put $1.5 million worth of advertising behind that video in television advertising in Massachusetts, because we knew that video actually struck the strongest chord with voters, so that they heard that video and they voted yes. Why? Why did they do this? Now, if I could just tell you what was on that video for those who didn't pick it all up on the first time, because we drilled it into people over the course of a few months before the question 2 ballot was voted on. The video basically says medical insurance in every state in this nation has a minimum medical loss ratio. What's a medical loss ratio? A medical loss ratio is the percentage of the premiums that all of the patients pay into their medical insurance. Okay, and you accumulate all that together. So hundreds of thousands of people pay a premium every month, and then you multiply that by the 12 months premiums that they've paid. And the federal government, through the Affordable Care Act, created this law for every state as a minimum, every single state of the 50 states, okay, that at least 80% must be paid out as patient care of that premium, of those accumulated premiums, for small group health plans, and 85% must be paid out for large group health plans, okay? But the Affordable Care Act has an exception. That exception is located at this location, which is 42 USC 300 GG-91 Section C, Section 2, Section A. And it excludes dental. Okay. So while every state has a medical requirement for this minimum percentage payout, no state until recently had it for dental. Now, Massachusetts has one now. We are the first state in the nation. Okay. And I can tell you, we have named what we have done here the Boston Teeth Party. And that may sound like a joke, but it's not a joke. Okay. Why is it the Boston Teeth Party? Because if you go back in history, the Boston Tea Party was a 1773 phenomenon. I call it phenomenon because it was the start of a revolution, right? You had these citizens living in the United States at the time was under the rule of Great Britain, the imperialist power of the crown. And they were tired of being taxed. They were being oppressed. They were being treated unfairly on a financial level. Sound familiar? Okay, there's a new imperialism in our world. It's called dental insurance companies. And there were a bunch of troublemakers, rabble-rousers. We now call them forefathers, right? Those rabble-rousers were the names Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Paul Revere. These are the names that are no longer referred to as rabble-rousers. And so here we are again in Massachusetts in 2022. Okay, so this happened a few months ago in 2022, and we believe what we did is similar to starting a revolution where we are shaking off the imperialism, right? The Boston Tea Party led to the Declaration of Independence. It was the start. Okay, and that's where it ended, the Declaration of Independence. And so here we are, the Boston Teeth Party, and we're going to be building the Massachusetts win of question 2, and we're going to turn it into a federal law. That's where we're going. So what I hope I've just done is on some level given vision, and on some level inspired and given hope. But let's just say we do that. Let's say we accomplish it. The next question becomes, what does it do really for us? And before I go back to I want to give a sort of structure to this conversation and set the table. What we have done in Massachusetts is so important and so revolutionary because it did this. It changed the paradigm of dentistry and dental insurance from dental insurance companies make more by spending less to dental insurance companies make more by spending more on patient care. That's a huge change. Why? Because what we did is we fixed the disease. We cured it. We cured a disease that has many symptoms. Now, what are those symptoms? These are the symptoms that you are hearing about all the time, like low rate reimbursements. Okay, that's a symptom of that paradigm. They make more, they make more by spending less, to they make more by spending more on patient care. Okay, the symptom here is we can make more by giving doctors lower reimbursement and unfair reimbursements. We can make more by bundling their procedures. We can make more by unfair audits that claw back money. Why? Because then we spend less. Okay, but if you're only getting 17% now, because Massachusetts adopted a law of 83%, if you're only getting 17%, well, you're a dental insurance company. We can rely on them to do one thing. They are greedy. They want their 17% to be as big as possible. Okay, so what are they going to do? They're going to say, we want to make sure we get every bit of that 83% out, because if they don't, they have to rebate it. They have to give it back to patients. Okay, so if they get a chunk, there's that aggregate of every year. Okay, and they're saying if we need to get right to the 83% so that we make our 17%, because if we get lower, we have to give some back, and we have a smaller 17%. Right? Relying on that, what's going to happen is they now need to spend more, and they can make more when they spend more. So that means what happens to rates? Well, they'll improve. Now, we don't want rates to improve too much, but they will improve. We can talk about that. If you want to ask me that question, why should rates not improve so much? Why don't we want that? I'd be happy to talk about that. But why would now they give you unfair audits? You know, they go in, they say, I don't like that X-ray. I don't like the margin on that crown, on that X-ray. We're going to give us $40,000. of work that you did that you think you did the best job you possibly could, right? And they take it back, and you don't have an option because they run a monopoly, right? You don't like it, leave. But I can't afford to leave, many people would say, right? So they don't have that option. So those clawbacks go away. Why? Because they don't make money. They lose money with those clawbacks. Wow. Okay. Assignment of benefits. Why do they not want to assign benefits? The reason or why do they make it so that someone who's out of network who wants some information on a patient can't get into the network to get information? Why? Because they have to pay more. And in their old paradigm, they make more by spending less. That's not helping them. But in the new paradigm, they make more by spending more. Assignment of benefits is going to become something that is more achievable. See, so medical loss ratio, and I put this to the ADA when I asked them to help us financially. I put this to them, and they said, "Well, we have a lot of different, government initiatives here." And I said to them, "I would like you to answer this question. If you could rank all of your initiatives, assignment of benefits, rank them in order of priority, where would you put it?" To be honest with you, they were stuttering. They weren't really. They didn't want to commit to an answer because that was, they knew I was coming with a point. Okay, and I said, "Let me simplify it for you." Okay, and then I gave them the spiel I just gave you, which is this changes the paradigm and it fixes so many symptoms. So that's a pretty amazing thing to be thinking about. I'm going to stop talking here because I could really go on about.
I'm gonna tell you something to kind of break up the conversation a little bit. As you're talking about this, it reminds me of it. I always tell my patients and my friends that insurance companies act like casinos because they bet, they collect the bet and they bet on it that they're not paying out. And it's the same thing that insurance companies do. The difference is that the casino smiles at you and pays out because they know you're going to come back. The insurance companies put hurdles in front of you. But there is a rule in a casino that they have to pay out of all their machines that they have to pay out a percentage of what they take in. And at the end of the month, when they haven't paid that out based on luck, they have to create a big jackpot to give that away to make sure they comply by state rules.
I love it.
Those who know me know I know a lot about casino industry. So it's not uncommon at the end of the month to see these huge jackpots for them to be able to comply. Basically, what you're saying is that, correct?
Yes, that's
if
fantastic.
They have not paid their what is it? If they have not collected their 13 or 17%, if they have not paid out their 83%, they have to look for ways to give it so they can collect. Correct?
Yeah, and I didn't mention increased maximums. So patients are going to have increased maximums. It is such an interesting conversation. You had asked me earlier, and I saw on your Facebook post, somebody said, make sure to ask him. What did they say? Make sure to ask him why he did this.
Why did you spend $3 million of your own money, hard-earned money, on this? And what did your wife say?
So that's great. So my wife is my high school sweetheart. Okay, and we've had a uniformity of mission for that long. Okay, life mission, right? So my life mission is not dentistry. Let's be clear, it's not. I actually have a bigger purpose in my life, and I consider myself a very spiritual person. And when you think that way, you really look at money as an instrument. Okay, I had an epiphany many years ago of how much I need in life to be happy. And I realized that beyond that, I actually was not utilizing that money in a way that I felt was my life purpose, right? And I know this gets a little bit philosophical, but I mean, isn't it appropriate for us to think about our lives in some philosophical way? So, I don't think I'm random. Okay, I have a belief in a maker. Okay, it changes my view of life, right? And I believe that I'm going to meet my maker, and I want to meet my maker. Having said, I gave 110%. That's where I want to be. Okay, and so that affects how I live, right? So what's $3 million? Well, I don't need it, right? But I know that if I take that money and I put it into something like change the nation, right? Well, that's a privilege, right? Because in some ways, when you start to think about your life as a purpose-filled life, then you start to say that was never really my money. I was entrusted to me because someone knew what I do with it, right? And it's not just this item. You know, I was interviewed by the media who said, "This must be the culmination of your career." I said, "No, it's not." And I think she was disappointed that I said that because she made it seem, because in some way she felt like I'm saying it's small. Actually, it's gigantic, but it's not the culmination of my career. I've got more. Just wait. I'm not a vacationer, Bob. Anybody who knows me knows that even when I do go on vacation, it becomes an education process for my kids. I take them places, I explain things to them. It's always, Dad's going to show you the world, you know, and give you life views, not just hang out on a beach, right? So there's something in all of that, I hope, explains the answer to that person who asked that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to address a couple of things here, and I want to, you know, everybody understands this topic, I hope by now. You know, we want insurance companies to spend 83% or higher on patient care rather than administrative costs. But I want to address how we can accomplish bigger things and advance this cause, and what role organized dentistry has played in this. I am very, very disturbed by the fact that what I hear is that they were not on board in the beginning, and they were almost like, you know, that mutual fund a manager that feels like, oh boy, I missed the party on Amazon stock, so let me throw some money at it so I can tell them, hey, I did have Amazon too. It feels like they came about too late, and although they helped, they could have done more in the beginning to kind of lighten your burden and help out. And I'm hoping these conversations, and we're going to have a lot of these coming into my group, will put out a notice that we want their help. We will help them recruit more members if they are proven worthy, if they are not going to weaken what you are trying to accomplish. So tell me a little about that. What do you expect from organized dentistry? Are you hopeful that they're going to help, or are they going to be an obstacle because of conflict of interest?
Great. So it's an interesting problem because, you know, as I answer that question, I want to be totally transparent. Okay. My heart is to get organized dentistry to join and become more in tune with the spirit that I'm talking about. And there are so many of us that have my spirit. Okay. But that's actually not where they come from. There actually is we need to cure some culture. The culture in organized dentistry is they exist to exist, not what you would think when you write your check every year to your dues. You know, you write your check, you've delegated to them the right to represent you. That's the first thing you've done. Okay. And you've given them funds to say, I expect you to do something for me, right? And I think we then close our checkbook, go back to drilling and filling and what we do, and just assume they're doing that, but they're not. Okay. And we need to change our own, in order to change the culture in organized dentistry, we need to change our expectations. Okay. We have to implement a certain level of accountability with them. Okay. So what happened with us is, you know, I got sick of watching nothing happening, and I authored question 2. I didn't just author it by myself, even though I'm very well educated in the law and I have a degree in business administration. But I hired 2 attorney firms. Okay, this wasn't organized dentistry. They knew nothing about this, right? In fact, I intentionally did not want them to know about this because if they knew about it, I was afraid they'd obstruct it. Okay, so I contacted 2 separate attorney firms and I worked with them independently so that we could hammer out good language and not use any sort of collaborative groupthink where we influence each other too much. I wanted different opinions, and together at the end we came together with our structures and figured out what was right. So then then by the time we filed the language, we were one of 31 ballots that year, okay, in 2022, one of 31. Of those 31, by the way, Bob, and people won't understand this math unless I explain it later, which I won't take the time now. Of those original 31 ballots, we were the only one that won. We were in. Okay, so what's your percentage rate of succeeding on a ballot? If you say 31 is like 33%, okay, 33% is a third, okay, of 100. So basically, it's one out of 33, right? That's your number. What's that math? It's 3%. Is what it ends up being, is 3%. So you have a 3% chance of winning this. Now, what did it cost me to actually get this thing officially on the ballot? Not market it, not advertise it, not vote yes on 2, but just get it there. It cost me $1 million. $1 million, okay? Then you'd think I'd be done with that. Everybody'd say, hey, Mo, you did a great job, $1 million. We're gonna now get behind you. The ADA would get behind you. The Mass General Society would get behind you, but they didn't. I ended up spending another $2 million. Why? Why did I do that? You want to know the truth? I didn't trust them. That's why. Because after I got it on the ballot, I was contacted by individuals at the Massachusetts Dental Society that asked me to change, to potentially drop the ballot. Okay, they did this. And I won't name names. Okay, but I will say that I heard one of them, it was a staffer, was fired. Okay, recently. Okay, and I applaud that. Great. That's the right beginning, because we cannot have staffers who are not aligned to the needs of dentists. So I applaud the Mass Dental Society for what I just heard a few days ago, is that staffer has been removed. But there were others that are still there. Okay. Now, why would they, what did they say was the reason to drop? I've already spent $1 million on this. Okay. And I've put this on a silver platter for them. What did they say? They said, we met with Delta Dental. Delta Dental came to us and they want us to talk to you, Mo. Okay, about what? They want us to talk to you about whether or not you'd consider negotiating with them to drop the ballot question and just do a deal directly with them. Now, I happened to not want to meet with anybody at Mass Dental Society without my larger group and team, because I want everything on the record. I want witnesses there. So there were 10 of us in the room, 10 of my team in the room, and they'll attest to everything I'm about to say. Okay, and I'm not here to point fingers. I'm here to change the culture and say, let's get this right, guys. We can be a unified, amazing dental organization, organized dentistry, if we do this. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time. So what did they say? They say, what if we offer Delta Dental a proposal and they accept it and you drop the ballot question? So, I don't feel like you have to have a degree in business administration to do this, but I just kind of listened, let them get through their whole conversation. And then I said, so let's just get this straight. So I make an agreement. What do? I sign a contract with them, Delta Dental. What about Blue Cross Blue Shield? What about Guardian? Do they sign it? Okay. And how hard is it for them to change their name? They're no longer in a contract. I spent $1 million, right? I dropped that $1 million. Ballot question never gets voted on. Now they change their name to Delta Dental of Massachusetts too. Okay. Am I no longer in agreement? Or let's say a new company comes in, completely new company, never heard of this agreement. Are they no longer held to this? Right. So what did we just do? What are we talking about even? Okay. And it was so sort of nonsensical that, I didn't want to be confrontational in a way that would be just, no, take that back to them. So I said, listen, they can make an offer. We're not making any offers. Our offer is, we'll see you on November 8th. That's our offer, right? They can make it.
But Mo, my mind is blown here. You're telling me that the Massachusetts Dental Society brokered a meeting between you and your team who are fighting hard to put this on the ballot. You've gotten on the ballot. You're trying to convince the voters to vote for it. They're trying to broker a deal with you with the Delta Dental Society to drop this. So
yeah, not
I mean,
dental,
it just
not Delta Dental Society, Delta Dental of Massachusetts,
did a
right? So
dental in Massachusetts, right? But Massachusetts Dental Society brokered this, right?
yes, I actually don't even know who knew about that meeting. I mean, this was coming through their government affairs, the leaders in government affairs. The director of government affairs is a staffer. He is no longer there as of 3 days ago. Okay, and there are other people in government affairs who are there, and there are other people in government affairs who are offended by the concept that their committee would even do this. So this did not permeate the organization. This was the parts of the organization that make me afraid of organized dentistry, because I don't know who has the keys and pulls the strings, and if their intentions are wrong or if their wisdom's not there, right? This is a problem. Let's say that their intentions are good and they came up with that. Wow, we got a problem, right? So it's a scary concept. So when I say to you, who do you trust? Do you trust them? I mean, how can you? You have to. So when it came to I told you it cost me $1 million to put it on there, and I spent another $2 million of my own money to advertise on it. Why? Because I had to pre-purchase the advertising, Bob. When the political advertising goes in there, they run out of advertising. Okay, so you can't wait for them to see what their advertising is or how much did they buy, or you have to make a gut check, and you got to go, I am either going to trust them 100% or I'm not, and I'm going to have to go at it myself. And in my heart of hearts, I felt that $2 million, if they had put nothing into it, to the $2 million of advertising that I did, and the infrastructure of dentists that at that point were aware and I bought $35,000 worth of yard signs. It was all over the place. I did this, right? And I felt even if we went at it alone, we could win. The fact that they relieved me, and they came in, the Mass Dental Society ended up giving a total of $173,000. Okay, that's what they gave. That was it. Okay, the ADA came in and thankfully gave $5.5 million, and I think that they felt, I think that they were very hesitant for many different reasons, not the least of which that they don't want to try and fail, right? There's something about our egos that if you try and fail, you're a failure, right? I look at it differently. I say we're failing every day. Every dentist today is looking at their retirement date and saying, I'm tired of doing this. It's not even fun anymore, right? There's so many. It's like I'm getting beat up left and right on the administrative level. I did not really sign up for this, and we're failing them every day, right? So, and oral health is failing every day. And I'm not even just talking about commercial insurance. I'm also talking about Medicaid. And by the way, watch. I'm going to revamp Medicaid. Watch. I'm going to revamp it in Massachusetts. I'm going to revamp it across the country. Watch.
Yeah, and I want to stress the fact here is that we talked about the ADA giving the money late, whatever, but we're still appreciative of the fact that they pushed. It was very nice, and we're hoping, right? I'm sure I can speak for you as well, that they continue supporting this and strengthening this movement. I don't want to see Nevada coming out with an 80% now, even though we're talking about 83+%. Now they're already weakening this movement. So I want to see the powers to be to educate people. I want to see them taking you around the country, speaking to these people. But as you said, if we can get something on a federal level, this can actually trump everything else, correct?
That's exactly right. And you know, so a couple of things here. Yes, I am very grateful to the ADA on so many levels. Okay. You know, what I want to though at the same time say, as I'm saying, thank you, thank you, thank you, ADA. I also want to say that's our money. Okay. Let me not pretend. Okay. As I said earlier on, we have a responsibility as doctors in our own association to expect accountability. Okay. If we don't do that, we fail ourselves. Okay. That's our money. They didn't donate $5.5 million. They directed $5.5 million. And to their credit, I've never heard them say donate. They've never said that. Okay. They've described it as directing. They're correct in the way that they've described it. And I respect that. Okay. But I've heard us say they donated $5.5 million. And every time I hear that, what I hear is a culture problem of not being accountable to us, right? So let's never talk like this anymore, right?
Right.
We need to change our view. We need to stop delegating it to them like it's them. No, it's us. We have power, Bob. You know, the ADA over the past 10 years has had revenue of $1.4 billion. Think about that. Okay. With $1.4 billion, you know, what they did in Massachusetts, they did great. Thank you. Okay. They can do that in every state. You see, there is no reason we can't do that in every state. And when I have described earlier, what is the priority in terms of the different legislation proposed? And the answer is clearly medical loss ratio. Okay, because it fixes the rest of the list by and large. Okay, so if we put $5.5 million in every state, okay, you don't need a Mouhab Rizkallah to do this. Okay, 5.5 is enough. It is. Okay, and what if it was 10? So what? Okay, you're talking about changing the entire nation as an industry and the impact on patients, right? So we need to hold the ADA accountable, meaning we need to hold ourselves accountable. That's the message.
Yeah, and I keep going back to that staffer that you're talking about. How many of these staffers are around the country? How many of these staffers are at the national level? How many of these staffers feel that their jobs are in jeopardy because if the insurance companies are not making enough money, how can they support the ADA? You know, I look at it as I haven't been a member of the ADA for a few years. But you know, when you pay into the ADA as a member, it's not only the income that comes from your dues, but this gives these organizations the license to print money from advertisers. You know, people like all these dental companies. It is, and that's where the one, you know, people ask me, what do you mean? Was that all of our dues? I'm like, dues? Probably sponsored money. People who sponsor all these events are paid a hefty fees to get in so they can have access to us. For me, I want it to be what it is. I want it to be a .org organization. I want it to be a non-for-profit rather than you know, how much money can we accumulate. But
well, that's right on point. You know, and I can appreciate the fact that, you know, you are one of many who dropped your membership, and people are going to drop their membership until they see change, right? And so I think the ADA and the Massachusetts Dental Society has looked at question 2 as, you know, they've paraded it around, you know, like, come back to the ADA, come back to the MDS. And I agree with that. Come back to the ADA, come back to the MDS. But I would put a little asterisk and a note at the bottom. We didn't start this.
right.
Okay. We didn't start this. Okay. And I would, and it's now time for them to say, okay, we learned from that process, and now we need to start this because that is aligned with our purpose, right? So this can be This is meant to really inspire at the same time as hold accountable. But let me also say, if you were to look at the staffing, whether at the state level or at the ADA level, a lot of the staffers are commingled with Delta Dental and dental insurances. They come from dental insurances, guys. Think about that. I mean, the high-level staffers, medium-level staffers, low-level staffers, okay? And what they do is they go from the dental insurance companies and back into the ADA and go back to the dental insurance companies. Now, if you're applying for a job at a dental insurance company and you say, I have worked in, I don't know, government affairs, let's say, of the state dental society, or I worked at the ADA, right? That is a credential. What do they see? If you were a CEO of an insurance company and you had someone come to you saying, I was working in government affairs at the ADA, okay, you'd say, oh, never mind where he went to school, never mind what his grades were, who does he know? Who does he know that can help me make sure that they don't pass medical loss ratio? Right? He's got friends there, right? So this is how things work, and I'm not interested in sort of telling stories, but this is how the world works. Okay, people and their networks are important, and I actually have a feeling that there should be a bylaw in organized dentistry that says you cannot have worked or intend to work for a dental insurance company for a period of time. Now, I'm not sure that the intend to work exactly plays out properly. I don't think that there's a legality necessarily to that, but there should be some structure in terms of conflicts of interest, because I can tell you right now at government affairs at the ADA, if you go to their LinkedIn pages, they're from Delta Dental, right? What are they doing there?
It's very heartbreaking. I want to actually come out and say that the floor is open for anyone from the ADA who would like to come and talk about these issues. I have always said, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to fix the wheel. We want to make sure the ADA has the structure, the dental societies have the structure. We can help them bring back the membership that they have lost. Membership is dropping under 50%. And I don't want the hardworking dentists at local level that are working as volunteers to be mixed up with all of this politics. It has nothing to do with that. I know so many people at the local levels that put out events, CE courses, things like that. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about advocacy for our profession on a national level. Does not exist, unfortunately, in my opinion.
Right, and I would go a step further, and where you're talking about your local committees and leaders locally, I would say I'm going to challenge every state, and right now I'm going to challenge you. Okay, one word: purpose. What are you doing for the wet-fingered dentist? That's my question. Okay. Because if you ask the wet-fingered dentist today, what's hurting them the most? They don't need another app. Okay. There's plenty of CE out there. Okay. So if you're going to just give them another CE course, I mean, thank you for the CE course. Great. Okay. But what are you really doing to change their lives? Because they can get CE anywhere, right? What are you really doing to change their lives? Well, if you want to change their lives, go to ask them what their biggest problem is, right? And their biggest problem is insurance. Boom. Yep. So if you have a purpose-driven organization, right, you need to be squarely saying, never mind all that fluff. Okay, let's solve the problem of the wet-fingered dentist that's making that guy or woman cry at the end of the day. Okay, and it's insurance. And what we have done in Massachusetts is we've put together a template. Go do it. Go do it. If you do this, and don't do it at 80%, okay? You need to understand why. Actually, let's talk about that, if you don't mind, Bob. Can I explain why the 83% exists? So people don't understand why I selected 83%. there's two real rationales behind it. In Massachusetts, as that original video explained, the medical loss ratio is 88%. Okay, and we ran a ballot question, and I knew that if I said let's make it 88%, which it should be at 88% or higher, it should be. If I said let's do 88%, I knew that I would set up advertising for them for our opponents, where they'd say, we're not medical, we can't do 88%. You know, we can't afford it. Your premiums for dental is lower than it is for medical, so we can't afford. I anticipated this. Okay, so I neutered that problem right at the front, and I said, let's come down to by exactly 5%. So 5% got you to 83%. But there's more. The second reason was the federal medical loss ratio for medical, as I described earlier, is 80% for small group plans and 85% for large group plans. 83% was the average. Okay, so here we're not talking about having two figures. We're looking at the average of the two. So 83% became also congruent with that, right? So it starts to look uniform. There's a uniformity. But here's what I also did, and this is the key to why people should not be at 83%. They should be at 88%. Okay, this is what I did. I made a second part of the law, which is what I call the fine-tuning part of the law. 83% is where we started. I expect to get it up to 88%. How? The fine-tuning component of the law is a robust reporting requirement, okay, which requires the dental insurance companies, every dental insurance plan in this state must produce a set of annual reporting, financial reporting on expenses and revenue and percentages, and it's robust. It's so robust, they sued us over this, over how robust it is. And of course, we killed them on it. But they sued us over this at the highest court in the state, the Supreme Judicial Court. We won that unanimously. 7 justices sided with us on this. But they were saying it was too robust. And what it does, Bob, is it allows us to open their books so that we know how much they paid Sally, the secretary, who's the wife of Bob, the CEO. All right, we know all these figures now, right? And so now we're able to compare. Now, we also know how much they contributed here, we get to see all of it, right? And so then what we can do is say they still have too much, because we actually know, and this is an important statement I'm about to say here. Mm-hmm. We know that the true administrative cost to administer a $600 million annual insurance plan, okay, volume $600 million, we know that cost at that size is about 5.2%. We know this. How do we know it? Because I sued them and I got their documents. I know their documents, okay? And so with that, if you're at 5.2%, and that 5.2% means that that's when the CEOs are still getting overpaid. Okay, they're not. This is still overpaying the CEOs, but they're not able to give away $300 million out the back door with at 5.2%. That's how they actually keep their money. These not-for-profits donate the majority of their money out the back door as a donation to who? To their mother company. That's what they do. And that's why in that initial video, what did it say? It said Delta Dental of Massachusetts contributed $291 million the same year. They only spent $177 million on patient care. What? That's what that woman said. Wait, what? Let me say it again. In 2019, Delta Dental of Massachusetts contributed, that's the line item, it says contributed. I didn't make up that word, it's their word. In their document, in their IRS document, in their IRS return, contribution to Catalyst Institute, that's who owns Delta Dental of Massachusetts, okay? They contributed $291 million to Catalyst. That same year, they paid $177 million for patient care. Wait, what? Now you would say, oh, that's a one-off. Well, and that was, I just told you 2019. Let me tell you what they did in 2018. $335 million against $184 million. Okay. So when Travis Travis mentioned, he said, you're never going to make more in terms of rates unless you what? What did he say? Increase premiums.
Right.
No, Travis, you don't need to increase premiums. If you keep the same premiums, you would have that $291 million, that surplus, added to 177. See what just happened? And in the year before, 335 would be added to 184. Okay. You don't need to increase premiums. And in fact, when I wrote the law, I actually obstructed their increase in premiums. I obstructed it. I put in section 2 of the law, there are 4 sections of the law. I put in section 2 that they cannot increase premiums above the CPI in one component, okay, and other controls to not increase premiums. Why did I do this? A couple of reasons. I anticipated that they would advertise and say, if you do this, if you guys vote yes, your premiums are going to go through the roof. And I could come back and say, okay, read section 2. Because no, you can't. They would say, dentists just want you to have to pay more in premiums so that they make more money. And I'd say, read section 2. No, it didn't. We are not going to be seeing increases in premiums. What we're going to see is a guaranteed increase in value. That's cool, right? And and that's an inspirational thing for Travis when he gets to, listen to this video and get the message. No, premiums are not going to increase. Not only are they not going to increase, we intentionally obstructed them. Now, here's what's fascinating. And I know I'm doing a lot of talking, but
No, go ahead.
There's so much interesting concepts here, right? So this law in Massachusetts does not take effect. And when it does, boy, it's going to be cool. But this law in Massachusetts does not take effect until January 1st of 2024. And so right now, we are working on the regulations component of this law. So for those who don't know the anatomy of law, okay, the law has an anatomy. There are laws at the highest level, and they're called statutes, okay? And what question 2 is now, it's called a statute, okay? And it, as a statute, it has to turn into more detailed regulations, which is lower. It's a law, but it's a lower what they call dignity of law, okay? This is the higher level law, this is the lower level law, and this is much more detailed, okay? We are now working on the regulations, the more detailed component. I had my first meeting on this yesterday, okay? I was the only one in the room, in 100 people room, Zoom room. I was the only one who was behind the dentists. The rest of the 99 or so were insurance companies, and not just the state, from across the nation. Why? Now, I had contacted the Division of Insurance, who has to write these regulations, because I wrote in the law that they had to write the regulations by October 31st of 2023. And so they're working on those regulations now. And I had contacted the commissioner. Actually, I spoke to the deputy commissioner. His name is Kevin. And I said, Kevin, can you describe to me what you expect of this series of meetings? Because we're having a series of meetings now to vet out these laws. And he said, Dr. Rizkallah, this is what it's going to be like. There are going to be 100 people in the room or more from across the country, because they know it's coming. They know what you did in Massachusetts, that everything we write in terms of the regs in Massachusetts is going to end up being, when it becomes a statute in their state and they have to make a reg there, what they're going to do is what we always do across the country. The Division of Insurance of Missouri is going to copy and paste out of Massachusetts, and Florida will, and Illinois will, and Nevada will, and Oklahoma. They'll do this. And he said, I wrote the first law in the country on the first regulations on FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. He said, I wrote it. It's all over the country now. It's my writing. He said, so, and I appealed a bit to his spirit. I said, so then how important it is that we get this right, and we don't let these insurance companies from around the country manipulate the statute that we have here in Massachusetts. We've got to make sure we produce a beautiful law that is a beautiful consumer protection law, because we're going to be affecting over 300 million people with what we write. Now, who is in the room? Me and my attorney, okay? talking about this. And Bob, they tried to start redefining at the first definition. You know, the first section is definitions. The first definition is called carrier, and they tried to redefine what a carrier is. So to define themselves out of it, right? I mean, you know, this is a process, and it's time consuming. But you know, what a privilege it is to be beating back these insurance companies and taking back our profession.
Yeah, I'm very nervous. I'm very nervous. I know you are optimistic and everything, but I'm very nervous that we don't have as much money. We don't have as much resources as these insurance companies. I don't want you to buckle just doing this alone. And that's why I'm nervous that these staffers around the country are going to be obstacles. And it's very important that the word to get out. I'm going to do my job. If something funny is going to happen, like this 80% in Nevada, this is not sitting well with me. You know, this is the wrong move. Reducing it from 83% to 80% means that they may negotiate it even lower, before it goes into the vote. So, you know, we need to be very vigilant as a profession. Look, and I'm talking this to my members, to any dentist that's listening to this, you either care or you don't. If you don't really care, that's fine too, you know, but if we don't care, then we're handing the keys to those that you always complain about. You know, I hear everybody, oh, this is bad, I do this, oh, I don't want this. To do something about it. You know, I created this group to do something about it, and I'd like to help you. I'm going to be your mouthpiece. You always have this floor to come and talk, and we're going to have roundtables about this. I want your colleagues that helped you in Massachusetts to come and tell their stories and get in here. I know a couple of the lady doctors that contacted me before we got to know each other.
Jill and Christine, yes.
Yes, and they have the Massachusetts Independent Dentist Organization.
The Alliance of Independent. What a wonderful group, the Alliance of Independent Dentists. Wonderful.
Yes, absolutely. We're going to strengthen that and hopefully take that nationwide, and make sure we have an organization to represent us if the ADA doesn't want to do it. You know,
and there's no reason not to have numerous organizations. I mean, the Alliance of Independent Dentists is not really competing with the ADA in my heart of heart. They are a niche, okay? Just similar to the American Association of Orthodontists. I'm an orthodontist, right? So, in my state, there's a Massachusetts Association of Orthodontists. I actually started my own group called the Medicaid Orthodontists of Massachusetts Association because there are not a lot of Medicaid orthodontists. And so I'm the president of MoMA, Medicaid Orthodontists of Massachusetts Association. But these are niche groups that have niche problems and need niche points of contact, okay? So the ADA is a mothership, okay? And we aid the Alliance of Independent Dentists doesn't really compete with them as much as they are a wonderful outside think tank. And I think these outside think tanks can really be accenting, really, and helping to initiate things to lead the mothership, which can't see all things. That's because it's just big and it's a lumbering beast, right?
Correct.
Whereas these more agile groups can do that, but they need to have mutual respect, okay, and not see us as one group or another group as perhaps a competitor. We're not competitors. We are you, right? So I have been a Mass Dental Society member and an ADA member since before I graduated from dental school. You know, so from my orthodontic residency, I take that back, and I will continue to be, because I have a faith in our organized dentistry that we can get there. Okay, but my faith is, but I don't have a belief at all that we're there. but I have faith that we'll get there. But let me talk to you about that percentage. And I think we should make that the next, maybe you had talked about doing another maybe round table. I would love, Bob, to have a roundtable discussion on what are the right percentages that we should be asking for, and I would love to perhaps get individuals from around the country who are representing the different states and talk to them about why did you pick 80%? Okay, explain to them that the 83% that I picked was for a purpose to get a voter ballot initiative passed, but I wouldn't have made that the legislative goal. My legislative goal would have been 88%, and I plan to take that 83% up to 88%. Perhaps if they knew this, perhaps if they had access to the discovery documents that I obtained through litigation on what the real percentages are, and they could use those percentages in their state through these discovery documents, their court identified discovery documents, that they could use this as argument points as to why they should be at 88%, right? I would also like to discuss with them how they're organizing their law so that it is modifiable. If you were to look at the law that I wrote it with a lot of big paragraphs, but the line that has 83% on it is a single line paragraph. What? Why? Because the way that laws get changed simply is if you just compartmentalize what you plan to change in one line. So these are strategies that make things happen. And I've changed a lot of regulations in the state of Massachusetts. This isn't my first. This is the first I wrote, but I've changed many. So if you would consider doing that, I think it would be helpful to coordinate our country.
Yeah, definitely. This is going to be a plan. At least once a quarter, we will have these things. But I want to get the ball rolling. I want to have a few of these so we can educate dentists. I will talk to you offline, trying to see who should be on this round table, and I, moderate it and bring your friends and bring my members from different parts of the country. I wanted to thank you for joining us today. You're our as it says, you're the godfather of insurance reform. I know somebody referred to you as the father, but I'm a big those mafia movies. I'm not referring to as mafia, but they should be
I'll
scared.
Take it.
They should be scared.
I'll take it. We are, as a group, we are forming a powerful team. We are an educated, powerful group called the Dentists. We're coming.
Great. Thank you very much again. And hopefully to see you soon.
I look forward to it. Thanks so much, Bob.
Thank you.